Well, guys, I've kind of got a bit of a confession. I forgot there was a game week that was going on over the past couple of days. But it's fine. It's actually fine. It's actually perfect because it allows me to fully implement the changes that I wanted to put in. You know, last week we were doing the thing where we weren't going to include Fantasy Premier League. It was just going to be talking about the football. But the change is a bit more. If anyone's seen like our F1 videos, we like to make sure that we just talk about the big talking points, right? And I love doing it because that's where I shine. It's when I do the opinion polls. I enjoy that side of things. I don't enjoy just going through every single one and seeing how things will pan out and how things will go. So we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to do where we just discuss all the talking points. And up until about 2 or 3 days ago, we had what, two, maybe three. We got five. We've got a lot to talk about. A hell of a lot to talk about. We will start off with what happened nearly a week ago now. Over the weekend's fixtures. That happened over the 7th and the 8th of February, and there's one particular game that is obviously going to be important to me, which is obviously Liverpool. And this is what happened, right? It was a 1-0 lead that Liverpool had with 16 minutes to go, and in the final 10 minutes, we lost, and Szoboszlai also got a red card. And the red card's already been rescinded. The other games the next game's already happened, the Sunderland game, right? But I want to just focus on this for now, because there's been some chatter that I've heard which has kind of made it that it's proof that Arne Slot is not fit to be a Liverpool manager. I view it differently. I view it so much differently. Now, Manchester City are certainly haven't won at Anfield with fans for well over 10 years. So that is a blip. But this is a Manchester City that are pressing to win the title. They might not win it, but they're pressing to win the title. And so actually, the performance that Liverpool put in against Manchester City actually wasn't bad. Now, granted, the first 25 minutes was scary. Manchester City could have been 3-0 up by half-time. But it was 0-0. And based on the second half, Liverpool could have been 3-0 up before Szoboszlai scored. There's a lot to actually be proud of as a Liverpool fan. And I do think that is perfectly fine. It's actually fine, right? I know it's weird, still weird seeing Szoboszlai as right back, but that's the situation we find ourselves in. The one thing that still is bothering me. It bothered me when Liverpool were playing against Bournemouth. It bothered me for quite a lot of the games in October and November, to be quite honest. It's bothered me quite a bit. Is Salah. I mean, it's gutting to say this. About someone who has been so good over the past few years, has scored so many goals. And by the way, I want to mention this, right? Salah not scoring goals isn't the problem for me, right? I'd mentioned this at the start of the season, or when I started to see there was something going wrong, that I understood the fact that Salah wasn't going to get the amount of goals or anywhere near the amount of goals that he did last season, because ultimately we've got a good striker now and the focus is going to be on him. The focus is going to be on Wirtz to get the assists. So again, that involvement doesn't bother me. But Salah's first touch, Salah's wayward passes, Like, there's a reason why Liverpool couldn't get out of their their half. It's because when the ball went to Salah, he lost the ball, and he went back to a Man City player, and it's scary. I I expected Salah to be slower, fine, but his first touch, I know it wasn't ever perfect, but I've never known it to be this bad. That's what I do want to mention. Do I think that he's washed and shouldn't play anymore? I'm not sure. Slot's going to be the best judge of that, but I do think that this really does show that it is Salah's last season. But I do think, based on this performance, Slot didn't do anything wrong. It was a good performance, and the very fact that Liverpool were better after half time shows that somebody fired them up. I will say this as well. Szoboszlai, I know he got a red card. His goal was sublime, but he's showing captain's mentality as well. I'm so happy that we've got Szoboszlai. So happy. But Manchester City got the win, like I say. So that was really the big talking point of there. But we're going to focus on the table that we are currently at right now. I know Arsenal are playing Brentford as of time of recording, but currently this is the situation we find ourselves in with the table. So Manchester City winning, with Arsenal winning at the time. So it was a 6-point gap. It's 3 points at the moment because, as you can see, Arsenal have played one game less. Aston Villa have, I believe, dropped points again. They drew against Bournemouth. And with all the matches that have just happened recently, Manchester United just dropped points, Chelsea just dropped points, Liverpool just gained points. So we're back to 3 points, covering 4th, 5th and 6th. And Brentford look like they could be joining the party, which is interesting. And then further down, we obviously would talk. It's the same situation. They're just shuffling around a little bit, but we're in a similar situation that we were last week. However, the relegation fight has just spiced up because West Ham and Burnley got wins. Nottingham Forest dropped points against Wolverhampton Wanderers. Tottenham Hotspur lost against Manchester United, lost against Newcastle United. That 6-9 point gap has just turned down to 5 points. Nottingham Forest only 3 points ahead of West Ham, who are in better form, and Tottenham Hotspur in better, again, even worse form than Nottingham Forest. And by the way, if Burnley decide to show up, which is not beyond the realms of possibility right now, we could be in for one hell of a finale. But the focus when it comes to that has very much come on Tottenham Hotspur and Nottingham Forest, the ones that are being chased, because both of them have sacked their managers. Now, I want to focus on the easier one to discuss right now, which is Nottingham Forest, right? Sean Dyche lost his job literally last night. Now, this is desperate. Vitor Pereira is looking likely he's going to be the Nottingham Forest manager. And I think this has shown Marinakis up to not know a thing about English football. You might know about football. At the end of the day, Marinakis is the owner as well of Olympiacos. Olympiacos are doing well, and so probably has knowledge of European football. But it's another thing when it comes to Premier League football. Now, that might sound strange, right? The fact is, when it comes to Premier League football, especially if you are, like, let's say, the bottom 7 teams, that are fighting around, you need a manager who's got a bit of brutishness about them. Not class, not pristine, not to be pristine, not the prestige. Brutishness. You want relegation survival managers. Look at the ones over the past. You had Bobby Robson, the West Brom Great Escape. Nigel Pearson for Leicester. You look quite recently, where you are looking at David Moyes, Sam Allardyce. Don't know if Alan Pardew was part of that. Tony Pulis, another good example. Brilliant example, in fact. And Sean Dyche. You have just sacked a manager that has elite levels of quality in a relegation fight. And actually, it kind of shows, right? Kind of shows that he's got that class. Because actually, look at Nottingham Forest's record. Now, the grey is on the edge, is a draw, right? They've lost 1 match in 6. They've won 2 matches in 6. For a team that's down the bottom, winning 2 matches in 6 is incredible. That's elite level stuff. In fact, only West Ham United have done better, which is fair enough. But the fact is, on that form, you could end up ahead of Tottenham Hotspur. No problem about it, right? Yes, it's a bit gutting that you didn't win against Wolverhampton Wanderers, but that's fine. It's absolutely fine. This decision might have just relegated Nottingham Forest. But, like I say, there's 2 candidates here that could also be at risk of West Ham's rise. And funnily enough, it's another one of Nuno Espirito Santo's old clubs. Nuno being in control of the destiny of these clubs. And that is Tottenham Hotspur. Thomas Frank. Now, this one made more sense. Thomas Frank's record was poor. What was it? 2 in 17 he won. It wasn't great. Tottenham Hotspur were in a rotten situation. And this is why this is more of a complicated talking point, because I don't think the problem's the manager. Think about it. Before Thomas Frank, we had Ange Postecoglou, which, okay, was a little bit of a dodgy appointment, but fair enough, right? Before Ange Postecoglou, we had, I believe, Antonio Conte. Might be wrong. Someone who's got a history of winning trophies. In fact, recent history of winning trophies. Before that was Jose Mourinho, and okay, fair enough, it wasn't the Jose Mourinho that we saw at Manchester United or at Chelsea, but it's still Jose frickin' Mourinho. Then we had Pochettino beforehand. Pochettino was probably the last, you could say, success story at Spurs, but fair enough, right? We also had Nuno Espirito Santo in there as well. Failures regularly for each of them. Something doesn't feel right at Spurs. Something doesn't feel right at Tottenham Hotspur. I can't put my finger on it. But I will say this. This feels... A few years ago, Tottenham Hotspur gave over the impression that they were a very well-run club. The very fact that they were considered one of the big 6 clubs was because of how well-run they were. And cool. Fair enough. But we're in a situation right now where their injury list is crazy. We've got 12 players injured currently. Now, you could mention that as an excuse or a reason, but I want to sort of put a spin on that. It was around the same amount of injuries last season. What is going on? Is this a recruitment issue? Is this a training issue? Have they just got players with papier-mâché legs? Like, what is going on? And then you got the fact that Christian Romero is someone that is very aggressive, is the captain of the club, and seems to be getting red cards like nothing else. Collecting them like they're Pokemon cards. Then there's the fact there's no director of football. And seemingly no organisation. And we could put it down to maybe you would go, oh, it's because it's Daniel Levy's not there anymore. Well, he was there last season when Tottenham Hotspur almost got relegated. This is bad, really bad. And I don't know where this started. Did it start when Ange Postecoglou pushed the players so hard that they end up breaking down? Or the recruitment? Are they recruiting players with, yes, a high ceiling when it comes to potential, but with so much of a journey to go before they reach that potential that they end up in this situation? And here's a thought. Why? Why are we in a situation where Tottenham Hotspur seem to struggle to get good players? Bournemouth have got good players. Really good players. Bournemouth haven't got the budget of Tottenham Hotspur. I don't know what to put my finger on this. Maybe it isn't an Ange Postecoglou thing. Maybe, just maybe, all the problems started since they moved to their new stadium. Things have been cold, but also it's an expensive stadium, so they're having to pay things off, and that means that they probably don't have the money that they can spend on players, and so they don't have the squad. And so actually they have got a bad squad. That's concerning. And I want to point something else out as well, because Tottenham Hotspur fans, I think the consensus, certainly 90% of the Tottenham Hotspur fans, want no other manager than Mauricio Pochettino. The romance that worked out well. You know? The one that got them to a Champions League final. The one that got them good, decent success. But I want to just ask a question that if you are a Tottenham Hotspur fan, this is probably going to be an uncomfortable one to try and answer. What if you do get Pochettino and it doesn't work out? Who are you going to go for next? Who's your backup? Like right now, we're in a situation where Tottenham Hotspur can hire managers and fantastic, great, and you've still got that dream of maybe it should be Mauricio Pochettino, but what's it going to be like if Mauricio Pochettino does join and you're in the same position next year? That's assuming that you're going to be in the Premier League next year, given the fact that you are at such risk. I don't know. But the fact is, Thomas Frank is a good manager. Say what you like about him. Right? Thomas Frank is a good manager. Ange Postecoglou, 50-50. Good at Celtic. Decent at start at Spurs, but, let's be honest, not been great over the past couple of years. Nuno Espirito Santo, showing class. Good at Nottingham Forest. decent at West Ham. Could be interested to see where West Ham are next year. Jose Mourinho, the miracle that he's just done at Benfica in the Champions League. Antonio Conte, the miracle he's done at Napoli. All these managers seem to do well after Tottenham Hotspur. Ironically, with the exception of Pochettino, who struggled at PSG, and let's be honest, the US men's national team might not do too well in the World Cup that's their own. Just something to be keep an eye out for, because I don't think this is going to recover anytime soon. I think there's a lot that needs addressing before that, and maybe the stadium debt is looming a little bit too hard and too heavy on Tottenham Hotspur. Right, that's the on the pitch stuff. There's two other things that I wanted to talk about that's off the pitch. Now, one of it I should have no interest in, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. This guy, you might recognise his face, Frank Eilert, or the United Strand. The Manchester United fan who has vowed not to cut his hair until Manchester United win 5 games in a row. Man United were on 4 in a row until the West Ham game, and they drew. And recently there has been some hate directed towards him. Not just social media hate, and like hate from individuals that, you know, are just fellow fans, which there has been. There was that video a couple of months ago of a Manchester United fan pulling his hair in anger. But now, also from mainstream media. Wayne Rooney basically said for him to get to the other side of the country. Social media is pushing and basically saying this guy is a joke, and you know, there is some reasons behind it in the sense of, you know, Manchester United are trying to push for a Champions League place, but all we can think about is the United Strand. And there's a couple of thoughts I've got on this. Firstly, I sort of get it, right? I sort of get it. This is, to a football fan, this is serious stuff. To, you know, get to Champions League, to win the title, all that sort of thing. And to see this gimmick being done, not great, right? But I'm actually going to come out in defence of United Strand here, because what's he done wrong? Why is what he has done, why is it such a problem? Now, obviously, there's things that can be pointed out when it comes to, you know, he's doing sponsorships and he was claiming it was all for charity, and it turns out it isn't. If that is the case, then that's not great. But ultimately, he just did a funny TikTok. And credit to him, he's stayed committed to it. The hair is still there. He's trying different things to make it look, but you know, ultimately we're in the situation that we're in, right? And this is going to be in the situation where he's got another probably 7 weeks of this. But why the dislike towards him for this? I mean, if you want the attention to go away from the United Strand, maybe don't give it attention. And if you think that this is the gimmick, the easiest way is just clearing it out. Like, what's the problem? Like, this guy is showing commitment. And okay, it's a bit of a gimmick. But So what? If you're a Manchester United player, this should be on the back of your mind. This should not. Sorry, this should not be at the back of your mind at all. Shouldn't be on your mind at all. You're just thinking about winning the next game, winning the next game, winning the next game. And fans can talk about whatever fans want. Do they want to talk about United Strand? Do they not want to talk about United Strand? But when it comes to the broadcasters, this is on you talking about it. Like, look at the irony. This is a webpage from BBC Sport, one of the big broadcasters of sport. They're going to talk about it. Like, is it just me, or does it feel like we're in this realm where random TikTokers are being given more attention than maybe even they want? I don't know. It just feels unfair and unkind. So, Frank Eilert, United Strand, will continue to do what he does, and maybe we should leave him alone. Right, one more thing to talk about. I think we know where this is going. Eni Aluko, the debates over men's and women's football. Now, if you're not aware of the situation, Eni Aluko made the comments that in the Women's Euros final, there were 4 pundits that were on the 2 main channels, BBC and ITV in the UK, that were broadcasting this. And one of each of the pundits was male. Ian Wright for ITV, Neda Manua for BBC, and she was in the stands alongside Farrah Williams. Watching it, they weren't being a pundit on it, and she says that's unfair. Now, just for full context for everybody, in the men's football, we regularly have female pundits. Again, one of the 2 that's in there, right? So for Sky Sports, we regularly have Izzy Christensen. For TNT Sports, it's regularly Karen Carney. On BBC, it's Farrah Williams, it's Ellen White, it's Steph Horton. And Steph Horton has a regular panel show on regular involvement in 5 Live as well, the radio shows, right? So women's involvement in men's sports as pundits is also there, right? So there's that balance. But is there any merit in what Aluko has said? Aluko has basically gone, that it's not fair that she's got the caps that she's got. I think she's the most capped England player, I believe. Although I think that might be Jude. The one that's on the overlap. But anyways, right. But football experience for Eni Aluko and women's football experience should count towards being a pundit in women's football. And I think in Aluko's mind, it should be the only thing that counts. Now, I have no idea what's going on behind the scenes at these broadcasting partners, but I do want to give my perception, my opinion from a fan's perspective. Because we've had, 1 year, 2 years of women pundits, female pundits in males sports, and fair enough, right? And I've really enjoyed it. I enjoy what's going on. But there's a reason why I enjoy it. And it's got nothing actually to do with football knowledge. Now, every Saturday at the 3 p.m. games, I'm watching Final Score. So I'm regularly watching Ellen White. I'm regularly watching Steph Horton. I'm regularly watching Farrah Williams. And it's not just them that makes them great. as a fan, as somebody watching these programs, you want to see chemistry. You absolutely want to see chemistry. Like, when I think of, for example, let's start off with Ellen White, right? Ellen White and Glenn Murray, who was a Crystal Palace striker, actually multiple striker for multiple clubs. They work amazingly well as a duo. They bounce off each other very well. They show respect to each other, as I'm sure you know. But when I say show respect to each other, they know where to show the respect as well, you know, and have the understanding of each other so that they do bounce off each other really, really well. And Ellen White is great because of Glenn Murray, and Glenn Murray is great because of Ellen White. They work off each other well. Chemistry is so important. And actually, there's a lot of people that's been saying, oh, Eni Aluko just won't get any chemistry with anybody. Well, I want to fight that, right? Because actually, when it comes to the chemistry and everything like that, there was one female pundit that didn't get on with Glenn Murray. And I remember the awkwardness that she would basically constantly be, almost look like she was seething at Glenn Murray because of little miscommunications and different things like that, which was Farrah Williams. But you know what? Farrah Williams has turned into a great pundit because she works well with Dion Dublin. And Dion Dublin works well with Farrah Williams. And in the same sense that Dion Dublin is good because of what Farrah Williams helps with, and the other way around, you see a chemistry. Izzy Christiansen on Sky, great with Jamie Radknapp. We think of other famous pundits, right? Very hard for you to think of Gary Neville without thinking of Jamie Carragher as well, or vice versa. Very hard to think about Micah Richards without thinking of Roy Keane, because again, they've got a partnership together. And here's the thing that I don't know if any understands this. Because whilst she is out here making enemies, in a sense, saying that Ian Wright is a problem, or Ian Wright being hired is a problem, or Nedimo Nua being hired is a problem, just imagine looking at that as the BBC or ITV. Wanting to hire Eni Aluko, but going, are we going to run the risk that we end up with an awkward atmosphere because of this? Now I do want to mention this. Like I say, Farrah Williams was also, for a while, was quite bitter to start off with punditry. And that's, by the way, it's new, right? People make mistakes all the time. And so I don't want to point out any of Luco's mistakes, because guess what? Every pundit has made mistakes, right? But Farrah Williams had to learn how to be a pundit. And I think this is a thing, right? This is, and I want to bring this down to a human level, right? I think all of us are in a situation where we see a position at a workplace, or we see a privilege that others have got. I myself, as a content creator, have exactly the same situation, right? That you see other people succeed and you're like going, why is it not me? And the thing is that when that happens, there is two different reactions that you can do. One of them being a bitter, well, that, you know, it's never going to happen because the world is against me. And the other one being, what do I need to do to improve? Now, of course, this is rich coming from me. I'm a white guy, right? I'm the stereotypical race that has no oppression, the gender that has no oppression, right? Had it easy all my life. And I'll say this, that, you know, there are going to be oppressions that are dealt with from black individuals, from women in sport, from women everywhere that I'm not going to be fully aware of. But I suppose it's the thing that when you have that pattern of thought, it's really hard to get out of that pattern of thought, right? We see it today that those that are a certain type of ist, sexist, genderist, that sort of thing, right? It's harder then to get out of the mindset. And maybe we're in the situation, and I'd love to know your thoughts down below, that if you have dealt with oppression of some kind, that it's hard to get out of the mindset get into the mindset that not everything is oppression, not every rejection is oppression. I don't know, and that's what I do feel for Enioluco, that maybe everything that she has had to deal with growing up, living as an adult, and right now, that means that she doesn't feels everything is an oppression, which is sad, like genuinely sad. But I'll say this, right? Ian Wright isn't the guy to go for, right? And the BBC and the ITV are doing the right things. They're merging the things together. They want people to view women's football as football, men's football as football. So what a perfect way to do that than to actually mix the two. Have male pundits in women's football, have female pundits in men's football, mixing it all up, getting it right, so that people see ex-professional players, both female and male, that are there. Like, if you are someone that has enjoyed watching women's football, like I have done for quite a while, the names already rattle off the head, Lucy Bronze, Izzy Christensen, Steph Horton, oh my God, Mary Earps, right? Or maybe in terms of international ones, Bon Mati, or oh my God, what is going on with me today? Yeah, if the names roll off the tongue most of the time, 9 times out of 10. But for those that aren't used to watching women's football, then hearing female pundits giving their opinion, or male pundits expressing their appreciation for women's football, will get people interested. It's just a thought. And I don't think any of this is a slight against Enioluco. But the more divisive she becomes with her opinions, the more nervy a broadcaster will be to bring her on. So I hope it all calms down and dies down, and I hope we're in a situation where Enioluco feels like people trust her again. And I want to point one more thing out as well. I just want to point one side thing out. This is where I really am going to defend Enioluco, because I saw this plastered over social media, and I saw comments that were made about her looks. I saw comments that basically, when she said she's quit the broadcasting, it's like, good, get out, you're the problem, right? That's not going to help either. That is not going to help either, because do you know what happens? It starts off with it being critical opinions, then it becomes edgy opinions, then it starts getting twisted into sexist and racist opinions. This needs to stop. We need to stop attacking each other. In a sense, we need to do what Enioluco could have done and should have done. We need to leave Enioluco alone. I know it's very understandable to want to jump to the defence of Ian Wright, but we are all having a go at Enya Luko for targeting Edem Anua and Ian Wright. So wouldn't it feel a bit hypocritical to then react by going after Enya Luko? And like I say, I want Enya Luko to succeed. I want a broadcaster to take a shot on it if she's still interested in the broadcasting scene. Maybe she can be part of podcasts for women's football where she can give her opinion so people can see she's got a good opinion and got something that matters to her. If it does matter to her. But otherwise it's just a sad situation. But anyway, those are my thoughts on this week's sporting notes. I mean, let's just have a look at our latest update as how things are at the moment. It's still goalless between Arsenal and Brentford, but yeah, that is currently where we are standing. And those are my thoughts. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you appreciate my views, feel free to like and subscribe. And until next time, guys, take care.